It's the early 410s AD in Cyrene, a wind-worn city on the edge of the desert. An evening light spills across the marble portico where a man in worn linen studies a half-written letter. His hand trembles, not from age, but from decision. The letter will travel east to Alexandria, to the seat of power that made him bishop, Synesius. He was never meant to wear the robe that he now folds across the table. He was a scholar. He was a husband, a lover of reason and song. But tonight, reason has brought him to the brink of loss. The church has spoken. A bishop must live as a celibate example to everyone. Synesius has spoken back. A vow before God cannot be broken for the comfort of men. He dips his pen again and writes with finality, quote, "God made me a husband before men made me a bishop," end quote. Outside, the sea breaks against the cliffs below Cyrene, echoing like applause or like a warning. When morning comes, this letter will begin its journey, and so will the storm that follows it. What happens when loyalty to Jesus means saying no to his institution? From the That's Jesus channel, welcome to Coach, where church origins and church history actually coach us how to walk boldly with Jesus today. I'm Bob Balch, and on Mondays we stay between 0 and 500 AD. In this episode, we're in the early 410s AD, and a bishop named Synesius of Cyrene has refused to renounce his marriage even when the church expected him to do so, raising a question that still echoes. Is obedience measured by rule-keeping or by love for Jesus? Before Synesius was a bishop, he was a thinker. Born in what is now coastal Libya, he came of age in a world where the Roman Empire's confidence was fading, but its intellect still burned bright. His teacher was the famed philosopher Hypatia of Alexandria, whose lectures on mathematics and metaphysics drew pagans and Christians alike. From Hypatia, Synesius learned that truth must never be feared, and from Scripture, he learned that truth is a person. The combination made him both brilliant and dangerous, too Greek for some Christians, too Christian for some Greeks. When raids and famine shook North Africa, Synesius withdrew from city life to manage his family's estate and care for his people. His letters show him defending peasants from tax collectors, teaching young students, and praying for peace as tribes advanced along the coast. He longed for quiet faith and study, but the church saw more in him. Around 410, Theophilus, patriarch of Alexandria, looked for someone wise enough to guide the region, 5 coastal cities adrift in turmoil. His envoys found Synesius, respected, married, and reluctant. He resisted the call at first. He wrote, "I am not yet sanctified enough to lead men. My soul still battles doubt." Yet the people insisted, and Theophilus agreed. Only one condition would silence his hesitation: he would not forsake his wife. In his surviving correspondence, he pleaded for honesty, not exemption. Quote, "I will love my wife and raise my children, as Abraham did, and still serve at the altar of God." End quote. Now, to some, that sounded noble. To others, that was scandalous. A married bishop? It looked like a backward step in a church where pressures toward clerical celibacy were increasing, especially in the West. But it was not yet universal in the Eastern Church yet, where many clergy remained married. But to Synesius, hypocrisy was the greater sin. He accepted ordination not as a surrender, but as stewardship, a duty to prove that holiness and humanity could live in the same house. And so, under the shadow of Alexandria's authority, a philosopher took the bishop's chair and determined to remain the man that God had already made him. At first, Synesius led quietly. He preached from memory, not manuscript. His sermons blended Greek precision with Hebrew fire. He urged his clergy to study, to pray, and to stay close to their flocks. And for a time, the church seemed content to look the other way about his marriage. But reforms were sweeping through the empire. In the West, councils were tightening rules for priests. And in the East, Alexandria's bishops wanted uniform discipline. Some whispered that a married bishop was a threat to unity, a reminder that discipline varied between East and West, and that not every ideal fit every culture. Letters began arriving from other regions questioning whether Synesius could remain in office, and he answered them one by one. Quote, "If a man may not lead because he loves his wife, then let us be led by those who love nothing." End quote. He was not angry, only steady, a shepherd explaining that love need not dilute holiness. He argued that Jesus' first miracle was not in a monastery, but at a wedding. His correspondence reveals the cost of conviction. When his youngest child died, he wrote, quote, "I do not ask why God gives or takes. I ask only that my heart not harden." End quote. When raiders plundered nearby villages, he organized food relief from his own lands. And when friends advised silence about the celibacy issue, he replied that the truth does not shout, but it does not hide. What made him remarkable was not defiance. It was gentleness under pressure. He had learned that integrity often looks like disobedience to those who mistake rules for righteousness. By the early 410s, reports reached Alexandria that Synesius remained married and continued living with his wife. Some bishops urged removal, but others, weary of controversy, chose to delay the matter altogether. Synesius went on preaching and baptizing and teaching and writing as though heaven itself had already rendered its verdict. He did not reform policy, and he did not break away. He simply kept faith to his God, to his wife, and to his calling, in that order. The final summons came in a sealed letter. Alexandria demanded an answer. Would Synesius conform to the standard of celibacy, or would Synesius step aside? He read it out loud in his study, surrounded by the books that had shaped him, Scripture, Plato, and his own notes filled with tears. He could have signed a statement of compliance. He could have pretended his wife lived as a sister, as some clergy quietly claimed. But Synesius would not trade truth for tenure. He took parchment, he steadied his hand, and he wrote a single paragraph that became his legacy. Quote, "If the bishop's honor must rest on falsehood, then it is no honor. I will keep my vows to God, to my wife, and to my flock, and let office be the sacrifice." End quote. No reply ever came. No council convened. Theophilus soon died, and political chaos in Egypt buried the controversy. Synesius, he remained preaching also through sickness, through mentoring younger pastors, and through writing letters that outlived him. In one of his last messages, he confessed exhaustion but no regret. Quote, "My body fails, but the peace of a clear conscience is sweeter than any rest." End quote. Around 413 or 414 AD, the philosopher bishop slipped from history as quietly as he had lived. No excommunication, no monument, only letters, fragments of grace written by a man who dared to believe that holiness could wear a wedding ring. And the question he left behind still haunts the church. When institutions demand conformity and conscience demands truth, which voice speaks for Jesus? Every age answers. It answers with its own rules and it answers with its own scars. Across centuries, the church keeps returning to the same uneasy balance: how to honor holiness without turning it into a harness. Every generation writes new policies, draws new boundaries, and tells itself that it's protecting purity. But somewhere along the way, systems meant to guard faith begin to manage faith. You can see it today. Church boards that confuse control with care, denominations that prize image over integrity, congregations that measure obedience by compliance instead of devotion. When structure forgets its purpose, love starts to feel like rebellion. The legacy that lingers is this: every rule built in Jesus' name must answer to Jesus' heart. When policies eclipse compassion, we drift from the person they were meant to serve. Healthy churches remember that grace governs best. They create space for conscience, for wrestling, for honest questions asked without fear of exile. They don't shame leaders for being human. They shepherd them toward wholeness. They don't silence tension. They transform it into trust. And that is the inheritance that Synesius left the modern church. Not a debate about celibacy, but a mirror about mercy. Authority without empathy becomes cruelty. Holiness without humanity becomes hypocrisy. But when conviction walks with kindness, the church begins to look like Jesus again. So where does that leave you? Maybe you've spent years following rules that kept you respectable, but never really let you be free. Maybe you've hidden parts of your calling because you feared what they would say. Maybe you've mistaken acceptance for approval and peace for silence. It's time to trade fear for faith. Ask yourself, does my obedience draw me closer to Jesus, or just deeper into the expectations of a denomination? Am I serving from love, or am I surviving on obligation? Real holiness isn't proven by never breaking a rule. It's revealed by refusing to break faith. Integrity is staying soft when systems grow hard. It's telling the truth without bitterness. It's trusting that God honors hearts more than hierarchies. The church needs people who will live that way again. Believers who love enough to stay and stay humble enough to speak. People who measure faithfulness not by applause, but by nearness to Jesus Christ. So whatever your circle, whatever your ministry, whoever your family is, lead with grace, speak with courage, refuse to trade conviction for comfort, because the quiet courage to follow Jesus over systems might just heal the very church that you thought you had to leave. If this story of Synesius of Cyrene challenged or encouraged you, share it with a friend. They might really need to hear it. Make sure you go to that'sjesus.org for other Coach episodes and resources. And don't forget to follow and like and comment and review and subscribe and tune in for more Coach episodes every week. Every episode dives into a different corner of church history, but on Mondays, we do stay between 0 and 500 AD. Thanks for listening to Coach, where church origins and church history actually coach us how to walk boldly with Jesus today. I'm Bob Balch with the That's Jesus channel. Have a great day and be blessed. You know, Wendy asked me if I'd ever chosen conviction over comfort. I didn't answer right away. That's the thing about these episodes. They stop being history and they really start being mirrors. And some days the reflection is harder to face than the research is. I grew up in a system that was very rigid in what was right and wrong. You had to do it a certain way or you weren't going to stay in that system. Synesius has shown me that drawing closer to Jesus rather than drawing closer to a system is what we really need. Have a great day and be blessed.